everyone, and welcome to the 30 Days of Courage. I am so glad that you are here with us tonight. So without further ado, I want to welcome onto the show Michelle Hurd, and we are going to be talking about where is the law and order for survivors. Michelle, thank you so much for being here tonight. I am just super excited for this. Oh, it looks like you're...
Hi, it's so good to be here. It's so good to be here, my dear.
I am super excited,
Yes.
and
Do you see me freezing? Because I feel like
yes, it is a little bit freezing on your end. Let's
I
see,
seem to.
hopefully. Can you hear me okay?
Oh dear. I can totally hear you. I see
Okay,
that uh, I'm a little delayed.
okay. Well, you know what? We will just begin
But
rolling with
as
it.
long as you can see me, then we're good.
Yes, okay, we'll just begin rolling with it, and it looks like it may have even worked itself out now. And, you know, Wi-Fi is what it is, and this is the age of, you know, using Zoom, and so I think everybody here understands. But yeah, thank you so much for being here today. It's really a pleasure to be speaking with you, and I know everybody is super excited. We've had so many people join the group, just being excited to hear from you because you have such a powerful voice. So yeah. Well,
Well, thank you
let's
for saying
just
that.
let's just jump right into the questions. I have a few prepared. You have such a powerful story. You have a powerful career, and I am just really blown away by everything that you've done. I know that you've been in Law and Order and Star Trek. There's so many amazing, amazing things, and that just blows me away. But I think one of the really history-making things that you've done that has been so just inspiring to me is your willingness to speak out about your experiences with Bill Cosby. And I know we don't want that to be the big focus of this interview, but I would love to just hear from you, just, you know, what brought you to a point that made you decide to speak out, not only for yourself, but for others?
Yeah. Well, thank you, Ashley, for all those kind words. Um, my experience with BC and my need to speak out really came because I was witnessing um, the fact that people don't listen to women.
Hmm.
There was over 40 women who were abused by that man, and they had been speaking out for decades. When I had my situation with him, I was a stand-in on his show, and he used to call me into his dressing room all the time, and he would do all these weird sort of acting exercises with me. And of course, once I thought about it, and especially now when I think about it, and he would put his hands on my body, he'd touch my breasts, he'd touch my lower areas. He's doing all this under the awning of acting exercises. And then there was one day where he said, "Why don't you come over to the house and take a shower, and that way you can straighten your hair after that, and we can see what your hair looks like straightened." And I'm so thankful for being like I'm a native New Yorker, and I was a little delinquent for a certain period of time. And I'm so thankful for that time because I was no longer drinking or doing drugs, and I also was like very had my spider sensors on, because every time I'd come into his dressing room, he'd always offer me some kind of a drink or beverage and tell me some story about this beverage, and I'd be like, no, 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 I don't drink. And when he told me that, like every hair on my neck stood on end, and I knew that was wrong. Something was wrong
Yeah.
there. And I remember looking at him and saying, "Well, I'm coming to work tomorrow. Why don't I just come to work tomorrow with my hair straightened?" And we
Hmm.
had this moment where we looked at each other, and he looked at me, and he had this like just unsettling smile on his face, and he
Hmm.
said, "Okay, Michelle, okay, let's do that." And from that moment I was like, something's wrong. This is I'm out. And the fact that he was touching me, and he had sort of like groomed me not to speak to other stand-ins and not to talk to anybody and tell them anything about these sort of situations. So at that moment I started talking to other stand-ins and other girls that um, looked like me or whatever, and we all had the same experience. And he literally was doing step by step the same things for each of us,
Hmm.
and it was disgusting. And we contacted one of the other stand-ins who had left, and she told us of a terrible situation, which I'm not going to say because it's not mine to tell. that she had gone through. So I had gone to my managers, my agents, told them about him. My manager and I told the producers, the casting directors, the network, the studio. We told everybody. This is over 20 years ago. We told everybody. We got no help. In fact, we were shut down. In fact,
Mm.
we had somebody tell us that I should, they said to my manager, Michelle should feel lucky that he has chosen her.
Hmm.
Unacceptable.
Wow.
Unacceptable. So for myself and for my self-preservation, I said to my managers, I no longer ever want to be associated with that man. I am extricating myself from his world. I don't want my name to be said with his. I don't want to have anything to do with him. I tried to do the right thing, and people tried to silence me, and I will not be silenced. So, cut to decades later, and I'm sitting on the couch, watching TV, watching one of my favorite talk shows, and the topic comes up of him and the accusers. And um, meanwhile, like on my Facebook page, I had a lot of my friends posting things saying, "Oh, these people must be gold diggers. They must be, trying to get their 15 minutes of fame." Just
Mm.
disparaging and denying the truths that over 40 women were saying. That's 40 women who may not have even interacted with each other, who had the exact same stories. And I sat there and I was watching this show and I was getting so mad. I called my sister and I was like, "Adrian, this is what's happening and it's pissing me off," and da da da. And she was like, "You should write something." I was like, "I will write something. I'm gonna write something." So I, in this moment of, like whatever, I wrote my firsthand experience with him on my private Facebook page, just to inform my friends so they wouldn't be so ignorant and so, judgmental of the other women. And, unfortunately, there was a lot of people of color, my brothers and sisters, who were making these terrible assumptions and saying, "Don't take down this good black man." And you want to go,
Mm.
black, white, a predator is a predator is a predator. So I wrote this firsthand account and just sent it out on my Facebook page, which of course now I know anything you put out on the internet is not private. And let's all know that. Lesson learned. Everybody remember this. Um, quite almost immediately after that, that same moment, somebody had private messaged me, my friend, and said, "Michelle, this is a really important story. My brother works for Showbiz Online. Let me release it to him. He'd really appreciate it." I said, "No, it's not for that. There are 40 women who have told their stories, who have been raped, who are drugged and raped. Listen to them. Believe them. You don't need mine. Listen to them." He didn't listen to me, and he released my story to the press. And in the following days, I had people come up to my door front, banging on the door, TMZ, all of the different publications. My sisters were called, my agents were called, my managers were called. People, I mean, it was dreadful. But then cut to that next week on the same talk show, all of a sudden there was this, one of the people who were hosting said, "Oh, it looks like Michelle Hurd from Law and Order had this experience. Well, I know her and she's not a gold digger, so you know what? Maybe it's the truth." And from that moment, there was this big momentum. And what's so frustrating about that is that it should not take somebody who's I don't even think of myself as a celebrity. I was on a TV show. And because I'm on a TV show, my voice should be respected more than just anyone else.
Mm.
Unacceptable. Unacceptable. And this really, what it spurred me on to do is to not so much um, track him down, but to advocate for survivors, for all survivors. I didn't need to be associated with him to give me some kind of badge as a reason to enter into this fight. It was because of those actions and because of the people not believing the people who are really speaking out that I said, I have to do this. I have to work harder so that everybody has a platform. I'm not concerned about the few. I'm concerned about the many. I want to figure out a way for us to empower each other and to stand up for each other and to support each other and to make sure that no voice is left unheard. I'm part of Time's Up, and it's sad what's happened with, so much drama and so much, with the whole organization, because it's truly a good organization. At its core, it is a legal defense fund that will pair people who don't have any money with lawyers so that they can be defended and they can prosecute their predators. we had a day called the Day of Listening, in which we brought people from every different vocation, women and men from different vocations, to tell their stories. I was so humbled and so honored to receive this information, to receive these stories. And I'm talking, we had news anchors, we had Olympians, we had house home care workers, restaurant workers, hotel workers, so many people, migrant workers, so many people who have been abused and their voices are silenced. And yet we listen to someone who's on TV. We have to do better. We have to do better. And we women, we can do better. All we have to do is stand by each other, support each other, listen to each other, give each other the shoulder to lean on when the other can't. That's the reason why I do this activism work. That's the reason why it's important to speak up when our friends and our strangers feel that they have no voice. We need to give them the voice.
Ah, wow. That is so moving what you just said. And I
Mm,
can see people over here in the comments just sending like so many hearts, and everybody is just really being moved by what you say here. And I think it's so important what you talked about. A lot of times, the few people who already have some sort of a platform, a lot of times it's white women who have platforms, and I think white women should have justice, but also a lot of times
absolutely.
voices are, whether it's because of the color of their skin, whether it's because of a certain job that they have, like being an actor or actress, a lot of times their voice is given more credence. And I love how your motivation has always been to help people who don't have their voices heard as loudly, and to elevate those voices. I think that's really what this should all be about. And I just love your heart for that. And
Mm.
I hope everybody listening really took that in, how we all have to stand together. And when we have opportunity to uplift people, let's all take that stand, just like you, Michelle. That's so powerful and impactful.
It really
Um,
is, because women are so strong. We're such an amazing creatures. We really are. And as, men are too. I don't want to disparage, but I speak from as a woman to speak to other women right now. And, if we can find the, strength in numbers, the allyship, we can really do just about anything and everything. And, I encourage, that sort of moment when you see something, you witness something, someone tells you something and you hesitate and you're not sure whether you should say something. Say something. Say something. Because they could say, somebody could say no, somebody could, whatever, but say something. Because
mm,
that one voice of support and allyship could could light the fire under somebody to actually take a stance and escape their predators. So we need to do that.
yes, yes, that bystander intervention, so important. Oh, I love that. I love that so much. And I would love to hear maybe you talk a little bit about what it's like as a survivor of color coming forward. The Me Too movement was founded by a Black woman,
Yes.
and
Mhm.
a lot of the popularity of the movement has happened when there have been white women speaking out. And again, white women, I'm a white woman, there should receive justice too, but a lot of times women of color's voices are lost in the story. And then there's the complex thing where Black men and men of color have sometimes been falsely accused, again, usually by
Yeah.
white women. And so there's these complexities and these challenges that are different than what white men and women face when they step forward and talk about their stories. And I wondered if you had some thoughts on that you could share.
Yeah, it's a very complex. It's incredibly complex, that what you're speaking on. Um, a very interesting event happened, which speaks to my allyship thing. Um, and I was actually informed by her when I went to do something. I think it was at the Tribeca Film Festival or something. We were speaking on behalf of survivors or Time's Up. I can't remember, but I ran into Tarana Burke, who you're speaking of,
Yeah.
who started the Me Too movement. And she said to me, she said, Michelle, we met before. And I said, oh, I didn't.
Mm,
When did we meet? We were on the subway in New York, and I witnessed this woman very emotionally upset. She was just sitting
mm,
across from me on the train. She was really emotionally upset. you could talk to my sister or my friends there, you'll find out that I often have this it's really hard for me to witness when people are in pain, strangers.
Yeah.
I often will like, I end up walking over to them and just ask if there's anything I can do because I feel I hurt when I see people hurt. And apparently, I got up and I sat next to her and I started talking to her on that train that day, and just basically said, I'm here, my sister. You're not alone. I see you, I hear you, and I just want you to know that you're not alone. And she took my hand and she said, "Thank you, thank you." I had no idea who that was. I didn't even know that it was Toronto afterwards. She told me decades later. She's like, "You did that to me, Michelle." So this is what I mean about like, reaching out, taking that risk. As far as, I mean, we can go back to Emmett Till, for God's sakes, a young 14-year-old boy who's murdered mercilessly because
Mm.
a white woman said he whistled at her. Um, there is a, it's such a big topic. It's hard to sort of uh, um, sum it up because we, people of color, uh, have so many different challenges, right? We are trying to elevate, and we're constantly feeling like we're being pushed down. You know, BC is a perfect example. People were mad that myself and over 40 other women were saying this about a black man, a
Right.
good black man. Which, what does that mean? I had an interaction with somebody, older white woman, and I had told her about this situation 20 some years ago, and she said, "Michelle, you shouldn't say that. That's he's really a good man. He's the Jello pudding man. Don't say that." And it's an amazing sort of, disconnect and deafness to have someone, you tell your truth and they silence you. They try to silence you. I feel like, we owe it to ourselves and to each other to do due diligence, to like do a little research, to
Right.
pay attention and to listen. So there's not a, if a black person is saying that this is happening to them, don't write them off because they're a black person. Just take a moment to listen and maybe do some research. Same with a white person. If a white person is saying this, don't just sort of take an assumption that it's correct or it's not. Take a moment to see each other as individuals, as valuable, fragile, vulnerable, priceless lives that need and should be heard and seen and supported. I mean, that's where we come to if we want to try to come into this world of kumbaya where we're not, looking at each other's color. Well, then we have to do that, right? We have to really take the time to sort of go, I see this person. Let me listen to this person. Let me do my research before I start to spew sort of, um, you know, rumors or what I think somebody's saying or whatever. I, I think black men get disproportionately accused of many crimes, of anything and everything, and that needs to change. And the only way we can change that is if we all take a moment to breathe, realize that we're all brothers and sisters here on this one tiny little earth we have. I know Bezos is hanging out in space now, and who knows what's going to happen, but right now we're all on this one little planet. And if we could just take the time to sort of really be, it's funny these days. I hesitate when I say fair
Mm.
because I don't know if fair and fairness is applied in our society anymore.
Right.
It's really crazy, right? Because you want to go, that's not fair. That's now life. Life is no longer fair. We now have these weird situations where inequity is normal. And
Mm.
to ask for equity makes the people who have privilege feel very put upon and
Right.
are
Right.
almost aggressively trying to push it away. So what do we do in that situation? How do we fight for that kind of equality? And that's an open-ended question. I don't know. I think
Mm.
the steps to do that is to see each other, to hear each other, to give each other the space and the support and the belief. At least, start with belief and try to be an ally. If we don't, if we only assume, make these assumptions of a body of people, well, I just think we're lost. And it's interesting. My mother and my father were both civil rights activists. My father,
Mm.
who was an actor, actually worked with Maya Angelou and another
Wow.
black actor
Oh my
named
gosh.
Godfrey Cambridge, and they created something called the Matinee for Freedom, where they would invite black artists into a cabaret setting, and they would, perform and sing and dance and do all that stuff to raise money for Dr. King. My father ended up
Mm.
being blacklisted many years because of that. My mother's white, and she was ostracized by her family when they got married, all this kind of stuff.
Hmm.
And I asked her, I said, because they got married when there were still states that did not acknowledge a black and white marriage, that they were illegal. When
Whoa.
my eldest sister was born, that was illegal to have that child. So they experienced the death of both Kennedys, of Malcolm, of Dr. King. And I said to my mother, especially during the beginning of the pandemic, when we were watching all those terrible videos of all these, Elijah McClain and Ahmaud Arbery and George Floyd and all these people, I
Mhm.
said, Mom, how did you continue? I said, you saw Dr. King get, executed. You saw Malcolm. You saw Bob. You saw the Kennedys. What did you do? I mean, it was like this, the sky was falling in. And she said, honey, I had hope. I had
Hmm.
hope for a better future. We're on the right side of history, and we're not going anywhere.
Hmm.
And we have to have hope. And so that's my thought, is that with all of the inequities with regarding race in reporting, and in a, and in victims, I hate saying victims, but when people are attacked, survivors, we have to have hope that there's going to be more of us who will do the right thing, take the time, learn, educate
Mm.
ourselves, don't make assumptions, and be an ally and help each other.
Wow. Yes. Yes. I know that I learned new things just listening there,
Mm,
and I'm also just like, oh my gosh, my Angelo. I just she's one of
yeah,
my favorite
yeah,
favorite people. I
amazing.
love listening to interviews from her, and just oh my gosh. Um, but yeah, really, it is something where we have to listen to each individual person. We can't just make snap judgments based on what a person's skin looks like or their sex or gender. And it's really I do feel like there's some movement happening. Like you said, we have hope that we're going to be on the right side of history, but it is infuriating, the injustices that still happen. And so thank you for shining a light on that and giving us a deeper understanding of that issue. um, and I wanted to
That
ask.
just to throw in there, just to, another little gem, because I always think of that whenever I speak about that kind of stuff. We always have to think about, like, John Lewis, right? He said, "Do not get lost in the sea of despair. Be hopeful. Ours is not the
Mm,
struggle of a life, of a day, a week, a month, or a year. Ours is the struggle of a lifetime. Never be afraid to get into trouble. Make good trouble." So that's where that sort of quote comes from.
oh,
And that's the truth, right? Don't be
yes,
afraid to make good trouble.
yes, yes. And you're a good troublemaker, and we like
I
good
am.
troublemakers here because that takes courage, and that is really what we're all about. And so, yes, 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 yes. All the troublemakers need to come together. And everybody listening, we're going to be doing a Q&A in a few minutes. So just remember, you can drop your questions at any time. I'll scroll back through and get to them. But continuing on with our conversation, I know that you've worked on a show, Law and Order, many other shows, but I know a lot of people know you from there. And, I think probably you, like the rest of us, we're used to seeing on TV kind of like these neat and tidy endings. These, the justice comes about because the actors in the show bring that justice. But as a survivor yourself, is that really what it feels like in real life?
No, not at all. And in fact, it's such a good question, because I do really want to encourage and empower all of our survivors that there is no wrong or right way to deal with your situation. You know, for myself, I chose not to track, BC. However, becoming part of Time's Up, I literally would go to the courthouse and stare Harvey Weinstein down. You
Yeah.
know, I wanted to empower myself to empower others. Um,
Mm.
as you know, as you, Ashley, you know, I don't like having my name and his name in a sentence. That's just mine. There are other survivors who are more than empowered to say their attacker's name out loud, and I think we need to celebrate that, and we have to,
Mm.
encourage both of those. Not both, because there's many different ways that
Right.
people are
Right.
dealing with their traumas. Speaking of traumas, I absolutely um, I would not have thought that so many decades
Mm.
later that that person could affect me the way he did when I saw his face on the TV when he was released.
Yeah.
I thought I had been done. I called a couple of my other BC sisters and we talked and cried because, speaking of Law and Order, we waited. We didn't wait. It
Right.
took
Right.
30 some years to have this justice happen.
Hmm.
And then the justice was taken from us.
Right.
So
Right.
there's no tidy ending here. There's no
Mm.
tidy. It's not, before the commercial break, we're going to get, the person's going to go to jail. It takes time. But
Mm.
like Gloria Steinem says, this is not a sprint. This is a
Yeah.
marathon. And
Mm.
sometimes it's a relay race where we
Yeah.
will have to hand the baton to someone else. But as long as
Mm.
we're all here and we're all fighting and we don't take our eye off the prize. And the prize is hearing, respecting, and reclaiming the lives that survivors have had ripped away from them. That's the prize.
Yeah.
However we get there. And
Mm.
sometimes it comes with a fantastic justice when the gavel is hit or whatever,
Yeah.
and there's a sentence and the person has gone away. Sometimes it comes with just talking and
Mm.
amplifying, making sure that we're seen and we're heard, and we can figure out a way to build ourselves back up. I'm a true
Mm.
believer. I think I might have mentioned this to you, Ashley, earlier, that you know the real egregious and painful part of um, this kind of misconduct is that the innocent part of us that lived prior to the event
Mm.
is now killed.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's killed.
Yeah.
Our trajectories changed with that person's actions.
Mm.
And we have to respect that and really understand that. And therefore help build, rebuild, rebirth almost that person to enter into the world again, to give them the steps and the tools and the power and the voice to speak up, whether it's to speak up against that person or just to speak up for themselves.
Mm.
That's where true justice happens. When those individuals who feel like they have been silenced and they have been killed
Mm.
can find their voice again, can find the power and the strength and the backbone to stand up and go, I deserve to be here. I deserve to be seen and heard, and I am not wrong.
Mm.
That's what the true justice is. How we get there, it's complicated, it's long, there's no right or wrong. We can't always rely on the scales of justice. But what would be beautiful is if we could rely on each other, to look
Ah.
out for each other and to stand up for each other and to fight for each other.
Yes. 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 And I love how you highlight that the way that we get to that place is different for each person. And it's not just the survivors who use a name and call out a public figure, it's the survivors who find the healing path for themselves more quietly, who tell
Yes.
just that one safe person in their life. There are so many ways to be a courageous person. There are so many ways to find this healing. And I love that we I think so many times we are told that we need to find justice in the justice system, and
Right.
a lot of times that justice system is not just, and people get out of jail on technicalities all the time. We're seeing
I
that with
mean,
the Larry Nasser um,
right.
moving forward. And it's heart-wrenching because you know the thing that the women have been through, and in some cases men, have been through. And yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Heartbreaking, heartbreaking.
really
But
truly
that's,
is.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I'm wondering, on like more of a personal note, what have you learned since, coming forward and talking about your story? Like, what have you personally learned from this?
Yeah. Um, yeah, it's a loaded question because so much. Um, you know, first of all, the heartbreaking thing is that by speaking and having my story told in the
Mm,
public, whether I wanted it or not,
right.
uh, the door was open, and this is the only part of that I value,
Mm,
is that it opened the door to other survivors to approach me and talk about their experience. And for that, I'm humbled. I
mm,
could be standing in on the subway platform or in the supermarket, and somebody will come up and go, "Excuse me, are you Michelle Hurd? I read your post. This happened to me. I had a situation." And the value of speaking your truth to a listening, supportive ear, I think is immeasurable.
yeah.
Because you could imagine people speaking to someone who's not privy to these kind of experiences or who don't believe you, and
Mm,
how damaging that could be. It's another betrayal. You're assaulted again because you have to defend the fact that you were abused.
yeah.
I mean, you know, that's horrible. And it really did sort of solidify my activism work. I
Mm,
think I was always an activist, and it's in my blood. I really can't sit silent when I witness injustice. I mean, I literally can't sit silent. People have to be like pulling me out. It was so funny, like especially doing Law and Order. I had to remind myself when I was like just walking around that I am not a police officer and that
yeah.
I do not have any kind of power at all. And so, take it easy when I want to, protect people.
Yeah.
Um, but I think what it really did was it really spurred me on to the importance of taking care of the many, of providing space and a platform. And I know that there was all there's all the drama over Cuomo or whatever, but I was part of Times Up, with where we were able to change the statute of limitations for rape in second and third degree in New York, which is really
Mm,
imperative. And trying to because I mean, if we think about like priests and children, those are children. The children oftentimes don't come forward for 20, 30 years. So to have a statute of limitation over rape is ridiculous. So I think really what it did was it made me sort of realize the importance of of activism work,
mm,
of making sure that we as individuals think of each other as a community and fight to make sure that our community is safe. Again, I'm not interested in helping the few.
mm,
I'm driven and focused on helping the many.
mm. Yes. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Ugh. And your activism work is helping many people. And whether it's the person on the subway, whether it's people who've read your story online that you'll never meet, the ripple effects.
Mhm.
I really think that this is history making stuff. This is, things that are changing our world on a deep level. And though I
Yeah.
wish change would happen faster, this is creating change. What you're doing is creating change. Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you, my dear. As
Mm,
are you. As
mm,
is this whole. I mean, this organization is phenomenal, and I thank you for it. I really do.
mm. Thank you. Thank you. What do you wish that the press and media would have done differently? There's always this press and media story creation with any story. But I know, especially in your case, you didn't want your story going to the press. That was against your will. And
Yeah.
so whether it's talking about that or maybe something else, what do you wish that press and media would focus on when maybe they're focusing on something else entirely?
Yeah. I think. I mean, it's. Uh, you know. I appreciate our press. I appreciate our
Yeah.
reporters
Yes.
and freedom of the press and all of that stuff. I don't want anybody to be out of jobs or whatnot. I get it.
Right.
But there is something about, you know, clickbait and money that I think drives people
Mm,
uh, to amplify
yeah.
and again, I understand, I get it, I get it, that's the world we live in, but I do wish that there was a little bit more of humanity in our
Mm,
reporting. I'm kind of feeling like humanity is becoming this sort of weird thing of the past, which
mm,
it can't be. It really can't be. We really need to look at each other as brothers and sisters. We really do, and once we start forgetting that, and we're forgetting how to talk to each other with a respectful way, and I'm often, I feel uncomfortable sometimes when I watch reporters push their mics into people's faces who've just had a loss or
right.
have just been abused, or and how do you feel? You want to be like, well, what do
Yeah.
how do you
Yeah.
think I feel? I
Right.
mean, and I could tell that that was happening with a lot of the predators that are, I'm an actor, obviously, so in my industry, we have a
Right.
lot of predators, and what seems so prevalent is that the press would like to jump on the names
Mm,
and some fabulous star that was going to give them a sentence, and that would amplify and become so big, and that's the story now. And again, again, like that day of listening, there are so many people who are asking for help, asking to be heard, and because we don't know their names, we don't
mm,
they're not valuable enough. I mean, I don't understand that. I wasn't, God, I wasn't raped by BC, but there was over 40 women who were drugged and raped, and
mm,
we didn't believe them. We didn't believe them. It took over 30 years. I kept thinking about this because I there was some scenario where uh I think it might have been HW. I'm not sure, but somebody was saying something, and they were like, this should happen now. This needs to happen now. This change needs to happen now. And I was struck at the fact that, like, I don't think this person was alive when I had been molested by BC.
yeah.
I wish things happened right now,
Yeah.
but the wheels of justice are slow. And when
Yeah.
it comes to women, they go backwards.
Mm, yes.
So, one thing I wish that our press would do is, again, see, that word came into my head, fair.
Mm,
Is it fair? What's fair anymore? Do we even measure things with fairness? I
mm,
don't think we do. I think we measure them with clickbait and
yeah.
likes and views and money.
Yeah.
And once we start putting money over human lives, then we're lost, and in those moments, I hearken back and I listen to my mom and I say, I have hope. I
Yeah.
have hope. I have a hope. I have hope for a better future. I have a hope that we will all realize that we are here together, brothers and
Mm,
sisters, and that we need to respect each other, support each other, and protect each other. So I just wish that the press would do better. That's
yeah.
all.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I hope anybody who might be in this group who is press would heed
I know.
those words and would, really heed those words and respect survivors and handle their stories with care, get education about trauma before you speak to people who've been traumatized. Such
Mm,
an important thing. I know I've spoken to a lot of people in the press myself. We've done different rallies and protests about abuse in the Southern Baptist Convention and
mm.
independent fundamentalist Baptist churches. And there's a lot of good reporters, and then there's others who they're just out there to get the story, and be one of those good reporters if you're
Be one of those
happening
good
to listen.
reporters.
Yes,
Yes.
we
I love
value
what
you.
you said. You said something. You said that you wish that some reporters would get some um, trauma training.
Yeah.
so that they would actually know how to interact with people when they speak to them. I mean, that would be phenomenal, amazing. And it reminds me of this. Somebody said to me once, this was a quote they had said, "Oh, I read this quote, it's really great." And they said, I appreciate when people don't give me direction down paths that they haven't traveled. And I love that, because you know how many times people tell you things and you're like, well, I don't know about that, but this is what I would do. And you're like, well,
Right.
if you don't know about that, then you don't, then stop it. Stop it. And
Yes.
there's a real truth to that. Like, be educated. If you're going to start saying stuff,
Yeah. Yeah.
take a moment before to educate yourself. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And before we take a quick break before our Q&A, if you just had like one or two words of advice for survivors, what would you say to them today?
I think I would say you're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
You are not wrong. It is not your fault. You are strong. You have your future ahead of you. You are not defined by this moment. You will rise like a phoenix, stronger, more powerful, more brilliant, and more bright. And you can now help others. But you're
Mm.
not alone, and it's not your fault.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. And
Mhm.
everybody, we are going to be right back with a Q&A. So make sure you're dropping your questions in there. I know I've seen a few come through and I'm excited to dive into those. But first, we want to thank our sponsors, Sojourners and SNAP Survivors Network of Those Abused by Priests. These are two organizations that are on our sponsor list, and we have several others, and just want to call their names out. And we have a quick video from SNAP for anybody who this may apply to. Hey everyone, welcome back to the 30 Days of Courage. We are talking with Michelle Hurd, and we are opening it up for a live Q&A. And we're just going to jump in with a few of the questions that have been sent in. So this question right here I thought was a really great one. It is, do you have daily practices to keep you out of despair and help you lean into hope?
Yeah, I mean, I'm an athlete. I've always been an athlete. I was track and field when I was back in the day, police athletic lead in New York and Colgate's women's games. Also a martial artist. And to me, my church is the gift of physical activity. This here, this little vehicle, I would like this vehicle to take me on many, many journeys for the rest of my life, and I would love to be able to do that as upright as I possibly can. So I and as a women, what's crazy is that if there's a to-do list, we do there's all these things on the thing, and then the bottom of the to-do list was like, what was I supposed to do? Oh, eat. That's right. Because we just don't think of ourselves, right? So we can't do that. I think that one of the most important things, and one of the things that is my church, is doing some kind of a physical activity, whether it's, jumping on a Peloton bike or Soul Cycle bike or whatever bike you want, or swimming, yoga, which I love, Pilates, ballet bar. I love, I call it muscle confusion. I like to do a whole bunch of different things, but the most important thing is that that's my time. That's my time. I don't look at my phone. I don't look at the, emails. I don't take in any other information other than what I'm doing for myself, for this vehicle,
Yeah.
this one little body that, in this lifetime, this is what I have. And I want to respect her. I want to empower her. I want to give her all the love I possibly can. So that's really what I do for my sort of meditation.
That's awesome. I love all of that. Yes, yes. And a follow up question to that, someone says, what martial arts have helped you the most?
I'm a black belt in Goju and Taibojutsu, which is an Okinawan style of martial arts. I keep joking because my two nephews, I put them in mixed martial arts for, gosh, since they were like, they're now 14 and 18. And I think I started them both when they were like 6 and 7 because I'm a martial artist. I wanted them to be martial artists. And it's so funny because those schools that are happening now, there's pads all over. It's all cushy and it's so nice and lovely. And my dojo was concrete and we had wooden makiwara pads. I've like broken every finger on my hand. And yeah, so it was a little different back in the day, but mine's classic, straight up old time karate.
Nice, nice. Very good. Another question that we had come in is, how do we help not only the press, but all of society to be more trauma informed?
Oh my goodness, such a good one. I have to say, speak out. Take the moment. If you're on, any kind of social media platform and you have people who are following you, even if it's from, one person to a million, speak, talk it, say
Yeah.
it. Talk about, standing up and protecting your, fellow survivors or survivors in general. It doesn't have to be fellow survivors. Just, listen and hear and believe and don't make assumptions and don't make sort of vast assumptions because of colors and all that kind of stuff. I think get yourself involved in whatever sort of support groups or activism groups that are in your community. It's incredibly fulfilling. It really is, and you find yourself with like-minded people, and all of a sudden, as I always say, strength in numbers. And you can really find that if it's like one or two people, you all of a sudden feel really galvanized, and you might be able to bring more people in there. So it's really about looking into your community, exploring. It's sort of weird nowadays because everything's on social media, and to say look at social media posts and retweet them or whatever. But there is a truth in that because more eyes on stories, more ways of amplifying the truths that happen to people, men and women, being abused, the more possibilities that we can make change happen. Because the people who don't have a platform are doing everything they can to try to get up, be heard, and I think it's our responsibility to hear them and to amplify them. And in the same
Mm,
scenarios of looking at social media things, be aware of the people around you, of the environment you're with, and your friends, and listen to them. Because when you're in a perhaps if you're in an abusive relationship, it's difficult to speak out. But there's cues, like there's little sort of clues, I should say, that might sort of um, open a door for you to walk in and help somebody. So
mm,
it's all about amplification and strength in numbers.
that's great. That's really great. Um, Question about mental health care and
Hmm.
why there may be such a stigma for mental health care in the Black community, and maybe some ways to begin overcoming that and creating better conversations. And we have a beautiful board member on Courage 365 board. She is a Black woman and she is a therapist, and I know she
Oh,
talks
wonderful.
about that a lot. And so, yeah, yeah, I would love to hear your
Yeah.
thoughts.
So yeah, my mother is actually a psychologist. So I am a huge therapy girl. Like the entire family, we're big therapy peoples. It's a challenging thing with people of color. I think we have, good Lord, I think we've just gone through so many things in the hundreds of centuries, that we've been
Yes.
around, and we're just trying to find our way. And there's a there's a concept of weakness, when you seek out help, which we really just need to squash. We
Mm,
need to talk about how empowering it is to seek help, how empowering it is
mm,
to look to change things that you're finding yourself locked into. I always used to joke and say, look, whether it's from, I'm getting financial aid to do it, or I'm able to pay for myself. There is somebody who has to sit on the couch for a whole hour and listen to me talk about myself. So I don't see what's the problem there. Sit on down. You don't get to say nothing. I'm going to talk all about myself for a full hour. So that's kind of cool, So if you can even thinking of it that way. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, there is this very, you know, it's antiquated, and it's a carryover from who knows from I don't even know from why, but people of color have a little bit of a hesitance when it comes to seeking help. But I wish we could understand that it's literally about empowering yourself. It's, if you find yourself in some kind of Pandora's box, some depression, some, bad relationship, addiction, eating disorders, any of those things, this is a way that you can find your way out of Pandora's box, that
Yeah.
you can empower yourself. Therapy is phenomenal. It's
Yes.
phenomenal. And it teaches you how to use words. I was saying to Ashley earlier, I'm really conscious of the words that I use, because it's really, words hurt and words are powerful. And the words we use about ourselves, unbelievably impactful. So be respectful. Not only, like I said, this is my vehicle, not only am I respectful of this vehicle, I'm respectful of the words I speak about this temple.
Mm, yes, 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 yes. And I would like to end the Q&A with a final question. We're so thankful for the time that you spent with us. And my question is, what does courage mean to you? It means something different to everyone, and I'd love to hear your definition of the word.
Yeah, that's a very good question. What does courage mean to me? I think courage means fully embracing all of my imperfections, stepping up and presenting myself as a full, realized individual, um,
Mm,
knowing that I will make mistakes, happy to learn from them, eager to have a new lesson every day, and to embrace each day with that kind of a concept.
oh, powerful, powerful stuff.
Hmm.
Michelle, thank you so much for your time. I know that it has uplifted my soul and my spirit. It has been so, so wonderful talking with you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Thank you so much for this opportunity. It's been a blessing.
Thank you all so much for tuning in tonight. It was a pleasure speaking with you all. Live with courage.